What's up, everybody? It's the Haitian homie, and I am excited. And you know what I'm excited for? I'm excited for Overwatch League Season 2. As you may know, I watch a lot of Overwatch League. I love it. Just love it. So I've been missing it a lot lately. I've been trying to make up for it with World Cup and with contenders, but I'm just ready for Overwatch League to be back. So now that we know what all these new expansion teams are going to look like, I figured, why not do some preseason rankings? Some power rankings, like you would a traditional sport. And so I'm going to break these 20 teams down into 4 sections over 2 videos, where I'm going to split them into the bottom of the barrel, bottom 5, and then the 5 above them, 11th through 15th, kind of in the middle but missing the playoffs. And then the top 6 through 10, you know, they're contenders, but they're not going to be the best. And then the top 5 that are really fighting for the championship, really. So that's what these 2 videos are going to be about, splitting them up so, you know, you're not sitting here watching a 40-minute video or whatever. So we're going to jump right in, talking about the bottom 5 teams. These are just the teams that I don't think are really going to make a splash this Overwatch League Season 2, unfortunately, for some of them. For all of them, really. I want them all to do well, but someone's got to lose. And starting us off in no particular order is going to be the Florida Mayhem. You know, I don't think they've gotten better. That's the problem here, is that when you look at their roster, they've gotten rid of some players, but they haven't really signed anyone that's proven to be any better. Right? They got rid of Logix. I don't really know why, because I didn't think he was the problem. I thought it was a tank play problem. I thought he was a great DPS, but they got rid of him. Put him down in contenders. I guess they could call him up if they wanted to, but I unfortunately don't see that happening. Long story short, a lot of the other teams have gotten better. And even the ones who haven't gotten better and have stayed stagnant, well, so have the Mayhem. And they were already bad. You have a lot of expansion teams coming in who are just gonna be better right out of the gate. I just don't think the Florida Mayhem have made any solid improvements that take them out of the bottom of the barrel, right? I just don't see them moving up any higher than they were last season, which is unfortunate, but that's just where I see them, in the 16th through 20th rankings. Next up, we're going to take a look at the Boston Uprising. Now, maybe this one is a surprise for some people, and maybe for some people it's a flashback, deja vu to about this time last season, because a lot of preseason rankings for Season 1 had the Boston Uprising near the bottom. And this is for completely different reasons than last year. Last year it was because people didn't think they had the names, right, that they didn't have the experience. This year it's because, well, they had the experience and it wasn't great. And you say, well, they made stage playoffs and they had an undefeated stage. They were the only team to do that. Yeah, but then look at the second half of their season. Right, in the second half of the season, the Boston Uprising fell apart. And it was a management issue, so it seemed. Their really successful coach, Coach Krusty, left them and headed over to the San Francisco Shock, who coincidentally started doing a lot better, while the Boston Uprising did a lot worse. The coach that was left, Coach Huck, it seems like he's not a great leader. Some unsettling reports have been coming out over the past few weeks, past few months, that players have been unhappy, that they've been requesting trades, that they just haven't gotten along with the management, and that this friction is causing problems in game. That's part of the reason why they started to struggle near the second half of the season. And unfortunately, a lot of that management is still there. And they've gotten rid of some of their star players, like Stryker. I was amazed when they let him go. And so, similar to the Mayhem, yeah, they've had some signings. Most notably, Alamau and Fusions. Fusions, I'm really excited to see him because the underdog story of the British World Cup team was just awesome for me. So I'm excited that he got some attention. I think his tank play is going to be fantastic, by the way. Love this guy. But other than him and maybe Alamau, I really don't think that the team has gotten stronger, and I'm not sure that the management is going to be enough to get them through. So that's why I've got them in this bottom 16 through 20, because even though the players might shine, I just don't think that the management is going to give them the opportunities and the stability that they need to focus completely on their game. That's unfortunate for the players, but that's just what I see. Next up, we've got the Toronto Defiant. Now, I love their branding. It's edgy, it's cool, it's kind of, you know, dark, urban, whatever. But that doesn't get you wins, right? So here's the problem. I have two problems with the Toronto Defiant. The first problem is that they're pulling from a bunch of different organizations. They pulled Envy from the Valiant, they pulled Asher from the Gladiators, they pulled Neko from the Uprising, and then they pulled Contenders players from multiple teams. The problem here is that you don't have a base. Nobody has any synergies, right? And now you're going up against a lot of teams like, for example, the Fusion or the Spitfire, who they did really well in Season 1, and they haven't changed up their rosters a ton, so they already have this synergy. They've been working together for over a year. Now you're putting a team together, having them practice for a few months, and hoping for the best. And even some of the other expansion teams have bases of 4 players or so who worked together in Contenders and came up. But that's not what you're seeing here. So my first problem is you're starting with a bunch of players who've never played together, sticking them together. Second problem is none of them were particularly successful. I mean, sure, the 2 LA teams did fairly well in the first season of Overwatch League. They both made it to the playoffs. The Uprising had, as we talked about, some spotty success, but these Contenders players, most of them were not really successful. They weren't on successful teams, they weren't on championship winning teams, they were just middle of the pack. And maybe these are the star players from those teams, but you don't have a history of success. So maybe, again, maybe these individuals will come together and be fantastic as a unit, but that's a big if. That's a big question mark. There's no existing synergy, and I'm concerned for their Season 2 run. Hopefully they can get it together and be awesome. I would love that. But my gut feeling is that they're going to struggle a little bit. And so that's why I have them in the 16th through 20th range. Next up, we've got the Chengdu Hunters. Now, the Hunters are, in my opinion, going to be the worst of the 4 Chinese Overwatch League teams, and we'll talk about the other 3 later on. But I just don't think that the Hunters have what it takes to really get out of this 16th through 20th range. And I have 2 reasons for that. Again, just like for the Defiant. The first reason is Silk Thread retired. So Silk Thread, who played for both Los Angeles teams in the first season of Overwatch League, was set to be the star player for the Chengdu Hunters, their star DPS. And then he retired last month. I wish him all the best, but unfortunately that leaves the Chengdu Hunters in a spotty situation here. If you look at their roster on the Overwatch League website, they only have 1 DPS listed right now. They have a flex in Jinmu, but they have 1 dedicated DPS player because Silk Thread isn't there. I'm sure they're working on signing someone or pulling someone out of Contenders, but as of right now, that's not the case. And again, just like with the Defiant, you want to practice for as long as possible. But with the Hunters, how long can this new guy practice with them and get used to it before they jump into the games? Yeah, we're still 2 months away, so we'll see what happens, but I'm just not sold on their DPS line. And the other problem is, aside from Yveltal, they don't really have success at, again, high-level play. Yveltal was a support player for the Chinese World Cup team this year that went to the finals. That's fantastic. But none of these other players have Overwatch League experience. They're Contenders players. Again, maybe they could do well, but I'm just not 100% sold yet, especially when you compare them to the other 3 Chinese teams that we're going to look at later, who have had better histories of success than this. So we'll see what happens, but again, gut feeling is that they kind of flounder this season. Finally, we're taking a look at the Atlanta Reign to close out this bottom quarter of the leaderboard. Now, I think they have potential, right? I think they've got the players that could pull it all together, but that's if they pull it all together. I think Pukpo is going to be a standout tank this season, especially from the newcomers, but I'm really worried about Defran. Maybe that's not a surprise, right? That's not a surprise, really, because he already said he quit on Twitter, but then he didn't quit. That's not stability. That's not stable. As it was, he already quit competitive Overwatch once when he was, at the Contenders level of play and went to streaming. Now he's back, and he already almost quit again. I just don't know if he's going to be in a good state of mind throughout the whole season, where he's at the top of his game competitively, where he's focused, where he's trying his best. Maybe he'll stay on the team the whole season physically, but will he be there mentally? Will he be there emotionally? Will he be invested in practice? If a player isn't in it, right, even if they're at the keyboard, if they're not passionate for it, then they're not going to carry their team. And that's what they need him to do. They need him to hard carry them. He's an amazing hit scan DPS, but if he doesn't carry them, I don't see them having a great season. And unfortunately, my prediction for this team is based on him, largely on him. So if Defran sticks around and is in a good playing state for the whole season, then they have a shot to do well. But I don't know. So that's why they're at the bottom. I think a lot rides on him. We'll see if he can pull it together. I don't know. So to recap this bottom quarter of the leaderboard, we've got the Florida Mayhem, the Boston Uprising, the Toronto Defiant, the Chengdu Hunters, and the Atlanta Reign. These are the 5 teams that I think are going to be at the bottom of the leaderboard for Overwatch League Season 2. Moving up to the 15th through 11th teams, we're going to start out with the Houston Outlaws. Now maybe this is a surprise because they had a fair amount of success in Overwatch League Season 1, but I'm a little bit concerned for their tank and healing play. And part of this is based on the current meta, right? The last time we saw Muma was at the World Cup, and he wasn't doing a fantastic job on main tank, and part of that was just the meta. Especially with old Brigitte, it was devastating. Hopefully the meta will switch up. It's supposed to by February. Fingers crossed. But I can only base my predictions on what we've got right now. And what we've got right now is, I think the Houston Outlaws are going to have some trouble with the tank line. And if the tank line has trouble, their support players, Boink, Bonnie, and Raucus, they're not the best support player core. So if your tanks are struggling, that's going to put a lot of strain on your support players. And when that happens, the team crumbles. Right, I think their DPS are going to be great. They've got Jake, they've got Dante, they've got Linkser. I think Dante is a huge pickup. I think he's going to be awesome for them. But if their support are being stretched thin because of wishy-washy tank play, which again is what they dealt with a lot last season, I just don't think they're going to have a ton of success. So while I would love to put them higher because of their DPS play, a lot of it hinges on the other players. Of course, it's a team game, and I'm not so sure how they're going to do. So that's why I've put them in this 11th through 15th range. Next up, we've got the Paris Eternal. So I'm looking forward to watching them because they're representing Europe with an all-European team, right? That's awesome to me. Big kudos to them, props to them. But I think they're going to be close to making the playoffs, but not quite there. I would see them falling somewhere like 11th or 12th, especially because I think Soon and Shadowburn are going to be a great DPS duo. I think they're going to synergize well. I think both of them are star players. And aside from being popular, I think this is going to give them a time to shine on the playing field. But again, similar to the Outlaws, it's going to come down to their tank play. And this is where I don't 100% know where to put them because I'm not super familiar with Ben Best and LH Cloudy. From what I can tell, they're okay, but are they great? And greatness is what you need to crack this top 10, and I'm just not sure that the Paris Eternal are there yet. I'd love to be proven wrong, and maybe they will prove me wrong. We'll see. But for right now, I'm thinking they're falling in this 11th through 15th range. Again, that's a gut feeling, but we'll see. So to close out this 11th through 15th range, we're going to look at the other 3 Chinese teams that I think are going to fall right in the middle of the pack. So we're going to start with the Shanghai Dragons. The infamous 0-40 Shanghai Dragons that, ironically, look nothing like the old team. Well, not nothing like. They've kept a couple of players, but they have changed a lot. The management switched up, the players are switched up, and I think they have an opportunity to do some cool things. I have my reservations. That's why they're in the bottom half of the overall standings. But I think they have the opportunity to move up from last up to, 13th or so. That's a huge improvement from Season 1. So what's the deal here? I think Dia and Gregory are better than they got credit for in Season 1. I think what happened, and I can't dissect all of their problems, but I think a lot of their problem stemmed from the support line just getting picked too often, making terrible plays, having bad positioning, and that made the tank and DPS players look not great. So I think Gregory and Dia have an opportunity with some new support players to shine a little bit. I mean, these support players, I hate to be rude, but they can't be any worse than what they had last season, right? So as long as they're marginally better, I think that the rest of the team is going to have room to shine around them. So that's why I see the Shanghai Dragons making a big jump from the bottom of the leaderboard closer to the middle, but not quite enough to crack the top 10. But don't get me wrong, I would love to see them make some playoff runs. That would be fantastic. I'd be a Shanghai Dragons fan. Next up, we're going to take a look at the Guangzhou Charge. So they picked up Kib, one of those underdog British World Cup team players. I'm super happy to see him in the league, and hopefully he can mesh well with these other, Chinese and Korean players. And you gotta think about that fusion as well. There's a lot of this on the new teams where we've got multiple languages meshing together, and hopefully they do mesh. Hopefully it's not like the Dragons where the Koreans and the Chinese players couldn't communicate, right? Hopefully these teams have gotten it figured out a little bit. Anyway, that's a little asterisk that we have to keep in mind with a lot of these teams. But Kib, looking forward to seeing him play. Hotba, one of the Philadelphia Fusion players that got sent over, looking forward to see him getting some more playing time. I think this team has that stability of at least one Overwatch League player, right, in Hotba. Kib has that World Cup experience, and a lot of these other contenders players could be good, but I just don't know yet. I'm not sure if they're proven just yet. We'll see what happens, but I'm putting them in this 11th through 15th range, probably closer to 14th or 15th, but we'll see. The Spark, on the other hand, this final team that we're going to talk about, the Hangzhou Spark, I think they are going to be very close to making a playoff run, maybe 11th or 12th. Very close. They're going to be competitive throughout the season, but ultimately, when you look at the top 10 teams that we still have to talk about, I just don't know if they're going to be able to crack that top 10. But I am excited to see what the Hangzhou Spark can do. And this is because when we look at a lot of these expansion teams, the Spark have that combination of experience and synergy. When I say experience, I mean you've got Gushua and Crystal from the 2018 Chinese World Cup team that went to the finals, right? So you've got that experience at the highest level of play, that stability. And then a lot of these players that round out the rest of the team come from X6 Gaming. That means they were teammates, they've played together, and they won the first season of Korean Contenders. X6 Gaming was a successful team even before Contenders started. So you've got a lot of longtime players who have worked together and are coming up together. You've got this stable base where they've already been practicing together, and you're plugging in the other puzzle pieces around them. I think that is a wonderful start for them. Is it enough to crack the top 10? Not quite. But it's definitely enough to be competitive, and a lot of those other teams in the top 10 are going to have to take them seriously and really be on their game when they play them. Of course, you need to be on your game for all of the teams in the league. But the Spark, who knows, maybe they could even crack the top 10 and really rival some of the best. I'm looking forward to seeing them play, and I'm really looking forward to that first match that they'll play against the Dragons, because one of these two teams is going to walk away being the first Chinese team to win in the Overwatch League. It'd be real sad if the Dragons, who had all of first season to do it, it'd be real sad if they didn't pull off the win. But we'll see. Should be a fun match nonetheless. So to wrap up these 5 teams that are making up the 15th through 11th segment of the leaderboard, we've got the Houston Outlaws, the Paris Eternal, the Shanghai Dragons, the Guangzhou Charge, and the Hangzhou Spark. So that's it for this video. Let me know what you think. I mean, do you think that the Uprising and the Mayhem are better than the bottom that I pegged them for? Do you think that the Dragons are still, 0-40 worthy? Let me know what you think. I'd love to see what your thoughts are, where some of these teams might fall in your personal power rankings. And also let me know if there's any individual players that I've looked over, right? A lot of these Contenders players, I mean, I can't watch all of Contenders. That'd just take way too much time. So a lot of these players are unknown to me. Let me know if there's somebody that is really a standout that I didn't mention, right? If there's someone out there that you say, hey, they're going to be the linchpin for this team. They're going to be the powder keg. Watch them go off. I'd love to take a look at some of their clips and see if maybe I can be proven wrong. So yeah, help educate me as well. So thank you all for watching. If you've enjoyed, go ahead and do all that subscribe and like stuff. I don't like peddling my own goods. You know what to do by now. It's YouTube. So thank you again for watching. I'll be back soon with a second video that'll recap what I think are the top 10 teams going into the second season of the Overwatch League. This is the Haitian Homie signing off, and I will see you guys later.